Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to, Natalie, you basically said it's easy to make ethical choices when you're wealthy. And I suppose it's around the informed consent and the capacity to consent. Do you acknowledge that women could be exploited because of economic circumstances when it comes to...
That's not actually the context she said it in. She was talking about gay men accessing... She was talking about something totally... It's misrepresentative of the context.
She made that comment.
Not in the context that you're saying, though.
I'm asking the question, Senator. Do you acknowledge that women could be exploited because of economic circumstances? And if so, have you come across any of those women?
Yes, I do absolutely acknowledge that. I think it's, a very important consideration in surrogacy to make sure that women who are doing this are giving informed consent, and there may be all sorts of things which impair that consent. It might be pressure from a partner, it might be pressure from the intended parent if it's a relative, it might be financial circumstances. And I think particularly when you're looking at jurisdictions where there is a lot of poverty and an imbalance between the surrogate and the intended parents, that heightens that risk. That doesn't mean that it happens routinely. I would say, in my experience of surrogacy in lots of different jurisdictions, it's not something that I see a great deal of, if at all. I think the cases that worry me the most in terms of exploitation are the ones where the parents have very limited information about their surrogate. So where they're being matched with a surrogate by an agency and their whole relationship is with the agency or the clinic, and they don't know very much about the surrogate, because the worry then is, well, who is this woman? Has she, been given all the preparation and the support and the screening? Is she doing this because of economic duress or real duress? We just don't know. So, I can honestly say that I've never seen a case where I have seen directly that kind of exploitation, duress, desperate poor women doing this because they have no other choices. But I think in those situations where we know not very much about the surrogate and there isn't a strong direct relationship between the parties, that is what the worry is, that might be happening. So I think that is one of the reasons that I say that I think one of the core elements of ethical surrogacy is a direct relationship between the intended parents and the surrogate, so that we can see what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And
Dr. Horsey?
Sorry. Pass that? Yeah, okay.
Dr. Horsey, have you ever come across?
No, nothing I've seen that would suggest direct exploitation like that, and obviously we're aware of some situations from previous studies of, say, for example, India, where things were less than ideal for some women who were acting as surrogates back then, but then these areas have been closed down.
And the reason they were closed down in 2015 was because the women were being exploited?
Not because all women were being exploited.
Not all women, but because the majority of them were being exploited. The majority of those women were being exploited?
I couldn't speak to that, but because some of the surrogacy that was taking place in India was less than ideal.
Can you elaborate on that, less than ideal?
Natalie, you were going to say?
Yeah, just to say that, I used to deal with a lot of people doing surrogacy in India. And I think the reason it was closed down was because that was a decision made by the Indian government about their perception, rather than because of any specific cases, or maybe, I don't know, but that was a decision of the Indian government. But I would say that I think we should be cautious about assuming that even women in India are not capable of giving informed consent. And I remember one particular Indian surrogacy case that I had dealt with where the parents were both British, the mum was of Indian origin and was able to speak the same language as the surrogate. They formed a really positive, direct relationship. The surrogate had had a business with her husband that had been destroyed by flooding, and the surrogacy enabled the family to restart that business and get back on their feet. And she was incredibly proud of the fact that she could do that to help her family. And they were all very supportive of her, and it was a very positive experience. And it ended up in the intended parents being invited to go to their son's wedding, and they all stayed in touch in the long run. So I think, we should be very cautious about just assuming that because women are of a different culture, of a different language, of a different kind of poverty bracket, that doesn't mean they can make informed consent decisions. I do think we need to take care to make sure that their decisions are informed consent, but I think we should be very careful about saying the whole of Indian surrogacy or the whole of surrogacy in any particular place is necessarily exploitative because these women are different from us.
Absolutely, and I hope you don't think I was saying that about...
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.